Of course, the biggest story at this time is the 2017 budget, the proposals as contained. And I mentioned it as I started talking about it on the program today. Benchmark is at $42.50 per barrel. And we have production at crude oil production at 2.2 million barrels per day. But would all of this really tie into the grandiose plans, the 7 big wins as launched this year by the Ministry of Petroleum Resources to ensure that the industry picks up? Because like the president says, you need oil to get out of oil. Dolapo Oni, head of energy research at Ecobank, joins me to share his thoughts on this. Dolapo, good morning to you.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
So, we're counting down and, of course, keeping our eye on when eventually the president will present that budget. We're still trying to get more information as to when exactly he'll be going. But taking a look at how the 2016 budget has fared so far, would you say that the oil and gas sector benefited from the 2016 budget?
Not really. I think we suffered a bit more disruption than we've ever experienced in 2016. We had more issues, and in terms of benefiting directly from the budget, I wouldn't say it did as well too, because some of the things that the oil and gas sector was supposed to do, especially in the upstream segment, passage of bills, cash call payments, we were still sort of behind for most part of the year. But towards the later end of the year, and particularly in the last quarter of the year, I think we made some stronger efforts. So we are basically exiting the cash calls with the arrangements we have with IOC. We have some peace in the Niger Delta in terms of oil production. And I think those things are a bit of positive that we can hold on to against 2017.
But then you see, we're going into 2017 with a myriad of issues that have come up on the global market. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries has cut production by 1.2 million barrels per day. And we've seen oil prices fluctuating between $50 and $55, $56 per barrel. Now, oil benchmark is at $42.50. And even with, as I said, global oil developments, and also it seems as if the National Assembly are quite not comfortable with some of the parameters, including this oil benchmark of $42.50. What do you think?
Okay, I'm always less concerned about the benchmark or crude oil price, because again, that's a factor that is out of our control. And to a large extent, what you really need to do is just set it as low as you can afford in terms of the revenue you're trying to generate. Preferably, it should have been nice if we left it at 38. As it is in 2016, but 42 is okay. Looking at where prices will be for 2017, if you look at the forecast for most houses, everybody's already forecasting even prices as high as $55, $60 average for 2017. Our own forecast is $48 average for 2017. If you look at all those numbers, it shows that $42 is quite okay. I think there will be a lot more volatility in 2017 than we are likely to see or than we have seen in 2016. But by and large, we should be fine with 42. The real concern is, can we produce 2.2 million barrels per day? We still have avocados that is down till maybe mid-February, late February. We still have Brass River that is still on force majeure. And we still have Agbami on maintenance and a few more fields also offline. So we are currently not producing enough, and some of that will drag into early third quarter and first half of next year, which I think will affect our production numbers.
Dolapo, does the 2017 budget tie into the 7 big wins for the industry?
Sorry, could you take that again? I
said, does the 2017 budget tie into the 7 big wins for the industry?
Yeah, I think it does. And thanks for bringing that up, because I think that's one of the major positives around the oil and gas industry that I'm really looking forward to in 2017. The roadmap is quite clear. What we're trying to achieve in the oil and gas sector, I think the plans are well laid out. And consequently, I think it shows that there's a bit of a comprehensive framework being developed. But more importantly, I think for the budget shows that we're still a bit more dependent on oil. But like the Vice President said, we still need all that oil revenue to begin to invest into the other sectors so that we can then start to get out oil. So in a way, it's tied in, but I don't think it's as elaborate as it needs to be.
So do you expect to see new investments from next year, particularly based on what you've said with regards the 2017 budget tying in very nicely with the 7 big wins of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources?
Yeah, I think again the 7 big wins in itself is enough positive to drive some of the investment we're expecting. I think the key step, which the House is already looking at, is can we pass the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill? Now, that discussion started. We had the stakeholder meeting last week where they had a public hearing about the bill. And hopefully, if the discussions move fast enough and we're able to get that bill passed as soon as possible, hopefully in the first quarter of next year, that should unlock some investment. Especially also too, as we start to see the executive bills also presented that will regulate things, that will deal with things like fiscal terms for deep water. Those are areas that really need to be addressed quickly. So if we can get all that passed, we'll start to see some investment. But the key aspect is that cash calls that would have been a part of this budget are no longer really necessary because we've found a structure to ensure that we don't have to make those cash calls anymore. So I think it's looking slightly positive on the side of the roadmap for the petroleum sector.
Is it also looking positive for the upstream sector? Because that's particularly the focus of everybody really going to be on, since there's really no subsidy for downstream. We have the downstream, we have subsidy and other issues coming up.
Yeah, for the upstream sector, again, it's still neither here nor there, because on one side you have all those plans going on to pacify the Niger Delta militants. You have plans to pass the PIB, plans to exit cash call payments, but really we haven't seen any real development in terms of negotiations with the militants. There's a bit of a pause right now. Everybody's probably in the holiday mood already, but as we start to get back into the year, I think the militants will also need to be addressed. The militant issue will need to be addressed so that we can at least get maybe 2 million barrels per day production by maybe second quarter next year. So that will be key. So positive, I'd say we're 50-50 on the upstream. Downstream is also another area of key concern as well.
So our industry watch is also positive with regards to the exchange rate. It's been proposed at 290 Naira, between 290 and 305 Naira. At the interbank foreign exchange market, we have the Naira at 305 Naira 50 kobo, and at the street market, it's fluctuating widely between 450 to 500. And we know that most of the importers, of course, use Forex to get in their products. So what's the word on the street?
Yeah, so again, that's one of the faulty assumptions, I think, with the budget, because it's quite clear to everyone that that figure doesn't exist anywhere in any of the financial markets, except maybe as a preferential rate that the CBN is willing to give to the government. But I don't think that figure actually exists in any of our markets. That's 290 Naira per dollar. More importantly, what I think the figure needs to reflect is the real rate that Nigerians are actually spending per dollar. If you look at what you're spending on your card, if you look at what you're spending with your bank transactions, that to me really reflects where the rate of the Naira should be. So the question is, if we really want the budget to be effective, we need to base it on real rates. And I think that the word on the street is the government needs to adjust that assumption to reflect what the real rate of the Naira is.
Well, Dolapo, thank you so much for your perspectives this morning. Dolapo Oni is a head of energy research at EcoBank. Of course, taking a look at the oil markets and the 2017 budget.